If you're about ready to retire, you have to reduce your risk. I cannot stress this enough, man. You have to. That's what I tell my clients. Accumulation is a young man's game. Preservation is a retiree's game. That doesn't mean you can't still strive to get some growth, but accumulation for accumulation's sake, that's not what we're trying to do here. And I'll prove it to you in just a second. I cannot stress this enough. You've got to take some risk off the table. So I'm working on my book, The Reverse RMD, and I don't know what I'm going to title it yet, but Reverse RMD, and I just got binders full of women. Did I say that? Oh, no. I got binders full of data in here and just going over, I like to keep a calculator, my pen, and a notepad and do stuff. That's what I like to do. Can you all see that? Data. It's I won't say it's fun, but it is kind of fun. It's like my own little research. I actually like to research. The writing part is like, damn. It's not the writing, it's the editing. It sucks, dude. I hate editing. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm sitting there, so I'm running my numbers, and hello. You want to come on up? Look what I got up there. Watch this. You guys want to see something funny? I guess. No. Come on. No. He loves to steal like napkins. He's like a shark. He comes like, Rawr! You're like, dude. Here comes Pablo. Okay. Anyway, so I'm working on my reverse RMD book, and the premise again was to take a certain amount of money off the table, let's say 10% of your portfolio off the table the first year, and reduce it by X amount each and every year thereafter. Hi, baby. And what would that be? Stability. Would you run out of money or something like that? It's reverse RMD, because the RMD is you're taking 3.6 the first year, 3.8 the second year, 4, and so on. So the RMD, you're starting way down here. My reverse RMD strategy is the exact opposite. Is that you're starting way up here, and then they'll cross at some point. And the premise of this is based on the older you get, the less you spend. And I completely think that's valid, true. And I think, as I say in my book, the very beginning, just ask your own parents or grandparents. I can almost guarantee you the vast majority will say, yeah, I don't even spend my RMDs. Social Security covers all my stuff. Not everybody, but the vast majority. Anyway, so that's what I'm working on here. So I'm trying to come up with a scenario. So I'm using Daniel Kuhlebert's spreadsheet, 55e.co, his bucket spreadsheet, where you can devise your own RMDs based on historical specific investments, which I like. Not just bonds and stocks, S&P 500, but specific investments, which is pretty cool. I'll use Craig Israelson stuff, and he's going to join us live next Wednesday. Craig Israelson from Utah, some university in Utah. We've had him on before. And he's going to talk about his retirement and analyzer spreadsheet too. And that's great. But those are all historic data, all right? And so historic data, I just don't buy into, man. I don't think we're going to get that kind of rate of return from historical data. So I'm using my expected rate of return, essentially based on the Vanguard models, which is pretty low rates of return with still pretty high standard deviations, and that's volatility. So I'm using that as to project. So I want to use going backwards. I think looking at hindsight is helpful, but I also want to say, okay, what if this happens, i.e. a lower rate of return with the high standard deviations, downside risk essentially. And high standard risk also means higher upside too, don't get me wrong. Standard deviation is the variance around the mean. So it's not just on the downside, it's also on the upside, but no one really cares about the upside. They're just saying, oh, my downside. And so I'm coming up, I'm crunching some numbers here. So basically right here, we got old Diane Sample. I'm just going to give you an example right here. And this is just I'm working on. This isn't the done deal here, but I'm just going to show you what I'm working on. This is a fake person. We got Diane Sample. She's 60 years old. And if you can have her live until she's 88, so 28 years, we can do 90, we can do whatever we want. So we're going to have her live until she's 88 years old, 28 years in retirement. No social, we don't care about Social Security. We don't care about anything. All we care about is, can her portfolio last a certain amount of years, given the amount we're pulling out? All right, that's all we care about. Given how she invested, the amount we're pulling out, can her portfolio last? Everyone said, what about healthcare? That has nothing to do with this. Can the portfolio last a certain amount of time? That's all we're shooting for. Don't get caught up. It's like a word problem. Remember when you're doing word problems, they put all this other data that doesn't matter for what we're trying to solve. We're trying to solve, will this portfolio sustain itself? That's it. And so what we're going to do, we got a portfolio here, and we got it all in, what do I have it here? $500,000. All right, so we're going to have $500,000, and we're going to take 7.5% the first year. Yeah, 7.5% the first year. And we're going to reduce that by 5% a year. Now, people say, that's a lot of money. It's just, I'll show you here in just not that much. And again, this is just a scenario I'm running with. All right, and we're going to do that for 5 years. Then in 10 years, and after 5 years, she'll go back to basically a 5% distribution amount, and we'll inflate that at 1%. Again, I'm just setting this up. It doesn't mean that I'm done here. So just hang tight. So we're going to go over here. We're going to hit retirement, and we're going to say, well, actually, we got to show her investments. So we got a 60-40 portfolio with a 6.4% annual rate of return, expected rate of return, and a 10.2% a standard deviation. All right, so that means on any given year, she could lose this at 12, 18, 30. She could She could be up 12, 18, 30, 48. Is that what I'm saying? Yeah, about 48 and down. Oh, let me figure this out 1 second. I got to get my head split up. It has nothing to do with the standard. So all we care about, we're going to say a 6% median rate of return plus or minus 30%. All right, so in this case, she could be up 36% or down 24%. All right, on any given year. That's what we're saying here. Hope that makes sense. So that's how you figure out standard deviation. What's the downside risk? Or a downside risk in this regard is 24%, which is quite high, identical to what we had in 2008. All right, so now we're going to go hit retirement, and we're going to look at cash flows. And check this out. We're going to see cash flows. And I'll show you exactly what it looks like from a cash flow perspective. And you're going to see her first year, she's taking 37.5. She got to pay some taxes, so 37,661. We're only paying a small amount of taxes, and really she wouldn't have much taxes. But this is just capital gain essentially. I mean, just income, interest income essentially. So then we're reducing it by 5%, and that's she's reducing by $2,000 or so. So not a huge sacrifice. Not a huge sacrifice. $2,000, $166 a month. Reduce it by another 2,000. Reduce it not quite 2,000, 1,800. So you can see there. So she's starting off at 7.5%, reducing by 5% a year, 5% a year, 5% a year, 5% a year, and then she's going down to essentially she's got 23,000 on a portfolio. At that point, that would be worth 2,030. She's about a 4 point. What is that? Let me just do that here. 2,000. She's taken 23,000 divided by 494. So in that case, she's taken basically 4.5% a year. So that's what we're doing there. And then that amount that she's taking out will be adjusted each and every year with a small inflation, just 1%. Again, I'm just using this as a scenario. And we got her living until she's 88. All right, so we're going to say this needs to last her 28 years. What will happen? So you can see 82% of the time she has money when she dies. And not only that, but the median liquid net worth is $200,000. And that's in today's dollars too. So that's pretty good. That's a successful retirement plan, I would say. So the question is, all right, what happens if we make the portfolio more aggressive? All right, so we're going to make the portfolio 100% stocks. I'll show you what the volatility there is in just a second. And what happens here? It goes from 82 to 68, and she leaves significantly less money. Why? Because she has much more downside risk. She goes from 10.2% downside risk to a 17. She increased her downside risk by 70%. So in this case, the standard deviation is 51 plus or minus 6. So in any given year, she could be up 57%, but she could also be down, 45% as well. All right, so here is down 24, some of that, and here's 45%, almost double. There's 70% more risk. And as such, she's not getting anything better, is actually making her portfolio less likely to succeed because the downside risks are significant. Now you can say, well, if we put in a money market account, which I'll show you the returns there, and it's going to be lower than here too, but not by much, only 79%. And so a money market account, you'll see right here, it only gives us a rate of return of 5 in a money market with a standard deviation of 2. So very little volatility. And so it gives us less rate of return. It gives us much less volatility than the model portfolio. But the rate of return and the volatility, while they're less, did take some of the success off the portfolio, but still not that much, not compared to stocks. We can manipulate these numbers all day long. I'm telling you, I had the same expected rate of return for 100% stocks as I did for a 60-40 portfolio. All I'm trying to show is the downside risk. The downside risk is what you got to concern yourself with. Preservation doesn't mean you put it all in cash, but just because we still have to get some growth. Don't get me wrong. But it just means, man, it's worth its weight in gold as you're a newly retired person. You've got to protect the downside. The days of allowing yourself to deal with a market fall of 2000, 2001 to 2 to Q1 2003, October 2007 to March 9th of 2009, Q4 2018, Q1 of 2020, 2022. You can't. You got to watch that. Right. Love your thoughts. Don't forget to just smash, just hammer the like button. Hammer it. Hammerhead. Boom. Hammer that like button. Get angry at the like button.